He thought you'd wait. Now he'll watch you rise. He left thinking you'd fall apart. He thought your world revolved around him, like you'd sit there waiting, hoping, aching for him to come back. In his mind, he expected texts, emotional breakdowns, and desperate apologies. He believed you'd try to prove your worth, prove you were good enough, prove that losing him broke you. But here's what he doesn't understand. Every predictable reaction he expects from you only feeds his ego. The crying, the over-explaining, the late-night, I miss you messages, they don't change anything. They just confirm he made the right choice. They tell him he had the power, and they rob you of yours. But we're not doing that. We're going to play this differently. Because real power, real regret, that doesn't come from chasing someone who walked away. It comes from becoming someone they never thought you could be without them. 1. Stop playing the script he wrote for you. When a man leaves, he writes a story in his mind. One where he's a hero, and you're the woman who crumbles without him. He imagines you desperate, checking your phone, stalking his social media, trying to stay relevant in his world. Every call you make, every emotional message you send, it's not love to him, it's validation. He wants to see proof that he mattered, but you're not going to give him that. Delete his number. Right now, not tomorrow, not after closure. Now, remove the easy way back in. Burn the bridge. Because every text you don't send, every call you don't make, begins to chip away at the fantasy he created in his head. And when the silence lasts longer than he expected, that silence becomes deafening. 2. Don't give him the show. Most men expect a performance after a breakup. They expect emotional displays, dramatic posts, and mutual friends whispering about how broken you are. That's the show he thinks he bought a ticket to. But you don't perform. You observe. You detach. You rise. Stoicism teaches, man is disturbed not by things, but by the view he takes of them. He left. That's a fact. But your interpretation, that's your power. You decide what that means. Not him. Not anyone else. You didn't lose your worth because he couldn't recognize it. You didn't become less just because he walked away. His leaving was the beginning of your becoming. 3. You are not your circumstances. The breakup doesn't define you. The silence doesn't shame you. The pain doesn't possess you. You are not what happens to you. You are how you respond. That's Stoic principle number 1. And this is where the game flips. While he expects emotional chaos, you choose discipline. While he anticipates regret, you show peace. Not performance, not pretending, but real peace. The kind that comes from detaching your identity from someone else's approval. Because once you realize your value was never dependent on his presence, you become dangerous. No contact is not a game. It's a message. He thinks you're doing it to get a reaction, that you're ignoring him to make him miss you, that it's all part of some petty mind game to win him back. But that's because he hasn't grasped the truth yet. No contact isn't a tactic. It's a transformation. It's not about him. It's about you reclaiming your peace, your identity, your direction, without needing his presence to validate any of it. He expects the door to stay open. He assumes he can wander back in when the world gets lonely or when things don't work out with the next woman. But what happens when he comes knocking and finds a wall instead of a welcome mat? That's when regret begins. 4. Cut the cord completely. Block him. Everywhere. Phone, social media, email, even that playlist you made together. Gone. Because keeping access open, that's just keeping wounds open. It's holding space for someone who already vacated it. Most women think blocking is childish or dramatic, but Stoic wisdom is clear. Eliminate what tempts you to lose self-control. If you keep checking his stories, waiting on last seen, you're still his prisoner. You don't owe him access. You don't owe him updates. You owe yourself peace. He expected you to linger in his orbit, even if you weren't talking. He thought he could still hold a presence in your mind without doing a damn thing to earn it. But when you block him, ignore him, and remove all digital entry points, something terrifying happens in his mind. He's not sure if you're missing him or if you've already moved on. And that uncertainty, that's the seed of regret. 5. The absence of emotion is louder than pain. You want to know what really makes a man second-guess leaving? It's not your sadness. It's your silence. It's not your emotional outbursts. It's your emotional stability. Because here's what most women get wrong. They think showing how much they're hurting will soften him. That if he sees the pain, he'll feel guilty. Think again. When you cry in front of him, when you beg, when you crumble, he doesn't see love. He sees weakness. And weakness never reignites desire. It confirms he made the right choice. But when he sees nothing, no tears, no mentions, no trace of suffering, when mutual friends tell him, she's been good, actually, focus on herself, and there's no drama, that silence becomes a psychological mirror. He starts asking himself, did I even matter to her as much as I thought? And if she's already okay, did I underestimate her? 6. Emotional control is your superpower. Don't confuse emotional control with emotional suppression. You're allowed to feel. You're allowed to process, but not publicly, not where he can witness it. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You cry in private. You rage in journals. You vent in safe spaces. But in public, you radiate calm, power, stability. That's Stoicism in action. Why? Because the more peaceful you appear, the more he realizes you were never dependent on him for your happiness. You chose him, but you never needed him. That's the part that hurts him. And deep down, it makes him wonder, how did I let a woman like that go? Stop hoping he'll come back. Start becoming who he regrets leaving. Here's the raw truth. As long as you're hoping he'll come back, you're still chained to the version of you who needed him to stay. And that version, that's the one he walked away from. So if you truly want him to regret losing you, stop waiting. Stop wishing. And for God's sake, stop romanticizing what was. Because if it was as real as you thought, you wouldn't be here right now, learning how to emotionally bury a man who let you go. Regret doesn't hit him when you cry over him. It hits when you rise without him. 7. Change your routine. Change your energy. He's watching. Even if he's blocked. Even if you never post. Even if he has zero contact. He's still wondering. Because men always circle back to the women they assume will never outgrow them. So break that assumption. Start changing your habits. Start doing the things you never did when you were with him. New places, new hobbies, new circle, a completely upgraded routine. Not just to impress him, to free yourself from the rhythm that once revolved around him. This isn't about revenge. It's about rebirth. He thought he knew every side of you. He thought he broke the deepest part of your soul. But the moment he realizes you've evolved into a version of yourself he no longer recognizes, and worse, can no longer access, that's when regret hits him like a freight train. 8. Do not try to prove your worth to him. Read that again. You don't prove your worth by texting him long essays about how deeply you loved him. You don't prove your worth by looking your best just in case you run into him. And you sure as hell don't prove your worth by throwing breadcrumbs of your progress on social media, hoping he sees and suddenly values you. That's not power. That's desperation wearing a filter. You prove your worth by acting like someone who doesn't need to be noticed to feel valuable. Because when you finally realize that his validation isn't what makes you worthy, your energy changes. And when your energy changes, everything around you starts to shift. You stop attracting men who take you for granted. You stop obsessing over closure. You stop replaying the past and start rewriting your future. That's when his regret becomes a storm he can't escape. He will revisit your photos. He will replay your laugh in his head. He will think about the way you looked at him and how no woman since has looked at him the same. But by then, you'll be unreachable. The day he realizes you're gone for good, there's a moment, and it doesn't come while he's partying. Not when he's texting the next woman. Not even when he sees your name pop up in old conversations. It comes later, in the silence, in the stillness, when no one is clapping for him anymore. When the excitement fades and all that's left is emptiness. That's when it hits. That's when he realizes you're not coming back. 9. The silence becomes loud. You want him to regret losing you? Then understand this. It's not your words he'll miss. It's your silence. He'll look at his phone one day, expecting a text, out of habit, out of arrogance. But there's nothing. No, I miss you. No, hope you're okay. Not even a just checking in. Just silence. And that silence, it screams. It tells him she's not waiting anymore. He won't admit it. Not out loud. Not yet. But in that moment, his chest tightens. Not because you're gone, but because you're not trying to come back. That's the moment regret is born. And it grows in the darkness of his denial. Point 10. Another woman can't replace you. This is what they never tell you. A man may leave you and run straight into another woman's arms. But that doesn't mean he's over you. That means he's trying to numb, trying to forget, trying to simulate the connection he once had with you. But without the emotional depth, without the history, without the soul bond, he might even convince himself that she's better. Until one day, she laughs, and it doesn't sound like yours. She gets upset and doesn't handle it like you did. She touches him, and it doesn't feel like home. That's when he realizes you weren't just a woman. You were the woman. And now he can't recreate what he destroyed. He'll smile on the outside. He'll pretend he's moved on. But deep inside, regret will rot him from within. Because he knows you're no longer his to lose again. Part 5. When he comes back, don't let him in. Now here's the part no one prepares you for. After all the silence, after all the pain, after all the disrespect, he comes back. Oh, not because he magically matured, not because he suddenly became a Stoic monk with self-awareness and integrity. No, he comes back because he finally realizes you were his peace, not his chaos, not his backup plan, not his punching bag when life hit too hard. You were the calm in his storm. But here's the twist. He only realized it once he lost it, and now he'll come crawling back with, I've been thinking about you lately. I wasn't ready then, but I am now. I made mistakes, but I never stopped loving you. Don't fall for it, because what he's really saying is, I tried the world without you, and it wasn't kind to me. I finally faced myself in the mirror, and I hated what I saw. I thought you'd always be there, and now you're not. And suddenly you're valuable again. But listen closely. 11. A man who truly regrets losing you won't just say it. He'll prove it. There are 2 types of regret. One is selfish. He regrets losing you because of how it made him feel. His loneliness, his emptiness, his suffering. The other is selfless. He regrets it because of what he did to you, because he broke something pure, something loyal, something real. Only one of those men deserves your time. And if his actions don't reflect change, if he still plays games, if he's still emotionally unavailable, inconsistent, or dismissive, then your silence was your gift, your distance your wisdom. And letting him back in, that would be betraying the woman you fought so hard to become in his absence. 12. You are not who he left. You've evolved. Here's what hits hardest. When he left, he thought you'd wait. He thought you'd chase. He thought you'd break without him. But you didn't. You rebuilt, not out of spite, not out of ego, but out of a quiet, stoic understanding. If a person can walk away from you, let them. Your peace is too sacred to beg for chaos. Now, he comes back to find a woman who doesn't need him anymore. That burns, not because he hates your strength, but because deep down, he knows he's a reason it had to exist in the first place. Part 6. Revenge is not what you think it is. Let's talk about revenge. Because deep down, that's what a part of you wants. Not in a cruel way, not to destroy him, but to make him feel what he made you feel. To see if he'll finally get it. The pain, the confusion, the rejection. You think, maybe if I ignore him now, maybe if I act like I don't care, maybe then he'll finally understand what he lost. But here's the Stoic truth. 13. Real revenge is not a performance, it's peace. Revenge isn't becoming cold. It isn't becoming heartless. It isn't playing the same emotional games he did. That's still reacting to him. And every reaction, it means he still owns real estate in your mind. True revenge is when you don't need revenge. because you've evolved so far beyond the situation that his absence no longer even stings. You've outgrown him, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. And the most powerful revenge? He no longer affects your peace. He doesn't make your hands shake. He doesn't make your chest tighten. He doesn't live rent-free in your thoughts. You've reclaimed your power by detaching. Just like the Stoics taught, we are disturbed not by events, but by our opinions of them. Epictetus, he was the event, but your opinion of him? That's what you changed. 14. You are no longer the woman who needed his apology. Here's what's beautiful. You don't need closure. You don't need him to admit he was wrong. You don't need to hear the words, "I'm sorry," to heal. Why? Because your healing, it didn't come from his validation. It came from your growth. The nights you cried and still got up the next day. The times you almost texted but chose silence. The moments you wanted to explain yourself but chose dignity instead. That's real healing. That's the strength he didn't think you had. That's the self-respect he never thought you'd choose. And now, even if he says all the right things, you don't care the same anymore. You're not bitter. You're just done. And that is where your power lives. He didn't just lose a woman. He lost a good woman. A woman who would have stood by him through storms. Who loved him with loyalty, patience, and truth. A woman who didn't walk away because she stopped caring. She walked away because she finally started caring for herself. And when the silence between you becomes louder than any argument you ever had, that's when it hits him. Not all women were created equal. Not every woman he meets will bring the peace you did. The way you listened, the way you forgave, the way you gave him chances, even when you were breaking inside. But now, you're not his anymore. You're yours. And that's the pain he can't run from. Because while he was out there playing games, you were becoming untouchable. He'll remember you in the quiet, when no one else texts back, when shallow connections bore him, when every woman after you feels temporary. And by then, you'll have become the kind of woman who doesn't just move on, she levels up. So let this be your peace, not because he regrets it, but because you no longer do. You don't chase, you don't beg, you don't break, you rise. If this spoke to your soul, if you felt a fire inside you reignite. Backhand Index Pointing Right subscribe to Everyday Stoicism. Because here, we don't just talk healing. We live it. We build strength in silence. We find wisdom in heartbreak. And we rise every day a little more unshakable than before. So hit that subscribe button. Like, share, comment. Because someone out there needs this message right now. And you might be the one who brings it to them. This is Everyday Stoicism, where your pain becomes power, and your story becomes your strength. Until next time, stay strong, stay stoic, and never forget your worth. Goodbye.